We're witnessing today an irreversible widening of responsibility for the problems nuclear weapons pose to human security across dimensions of geography and sovereign authority, legal rules and diplomatic fora, scientific disciplines and technical skill sets, as well as societies and cultures. The effect of the problem is not new, a species-level danger to humanity in its physical and moral aspects. But we are increasingly aware that its causes and our capacities for response are more diverse, complex, and multifaceted than we had previously understood. Our deepening understanding of the global human danger of nuclear weapons shares important attributes with our deepening understanding of climate change. The difficulty for a citizen to parse fully the expert disagreement about the nuances of the issue does not prevent a widening sense of public responsibility for the problem and appropriate responses. People around the world are making economic and political decisions to respond to climate change and adapt to it on a personal level. They don't know for sure that they'll save a polar bear, but their collective action and attention changes the political context for policymaking by elevating the issue, attracting more resources and critical focus to the effort to find solutions, and raising the political price of neglecting the problem. A similar increase in public engagement could also improve the context for nuclear weapons policymaking by supporting governments exhibiting more political commitment, more scholarly research across more disciplines, better education and more technical experts, and greater public awareness. We need to act out of a heightened awareness that the bomb is the problem, and that it's everybody's problem, everybody's bomb. Inequality is the crack that threatens to shatter the future control of nuclear proliferation. In explaining his country's 1998 nuclear explosive tests, Indian Foreign Minister Jaswant Singh used the term nuclear apartheid to describe the current status of haves and have-nots of nuclear weapons in the international system. I think he's wrong. The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty that recognizes 5 states as having already developed nuclear weapons by 1968 doesn't seek to make that possession permanent and institutional. But it's easy to understand where he's coming from and how his argument may be seductive to others, as these 5 states, and now more, continue to rely on nuclear weapons for their security and assert their usefulness. Some on the have-not side of history seek a greater role in world affairs through nuclear weapons, and more productive means of inclusion must be found. Inclusion means listening to those with whom we disagree, to specify and work to reduce areas of disagreement. Not every disagreement is going to be resolved that way. Governments of both Iran and North Korea, for example, are undertaking actions that are inimical to the effort to control nuclear weapons and, in fact, to international law and the process of international organization broadly. The diplomacy is about talking to and about the bad guys. It's about maintaining broad agreement among a wider global community so that when Iran and North Korea break the rules, their behavior is aberrant and unacceptable. Clear solutions for lawbreaking may not always exist, but long-term peace and stability demand that we maintain international agreement about standards for responsible global citizenship. This is properly the work of diplomacy. Archbishop Elliot has observed that multilateralism is an important and superior alternative to violence as a means to security. But it is also the work of social organization and of scholarship to find ways to overcome disagreements by establishing new standards. A tradition of social activism for inclusion in nuclear solutions has contributed to our ability to live with the bomb. The Federation of American Scientists coined the term education for survival in the 1940s in a response to their role in bringing this capacity into the world. In the 1960s, His Holiness Pope John XXIII responded to the extraordinary danger of the Cuban Missile Crisis through his encyclical Pacem in Terris. And in the 1980s, the U.S. Catholic bishops issued a pastoral letter on war and peace in the nuclear age. Perhaps closer to home for this community, in the pages of America magazine just 5 years ago, the late Father Robert Drinan asked, would it be possible to educate and arouse America's 64 million Catholics to become a church that is a strong political force at persuading the Congress and the White House to renounce and defuse nuclear weapons? The human family has not concluded that nuclear weapons are a moral evil, the way we have about slavery, for instance. although important institutions, including the Catholic Church, have come close. Even in the act of committing the United States to the ultimate abolition of nuclear weapons last Palm Sunday, President Obama allowed that it probably wouldn't happen within his lifetime. But for all the complexity and disagreement about nuclear weapons, there are some things we do know about. We know that we ought not to live comfortably behind the threat of killing millions of our fellow human beings in an afternoon. Because it's morally dubious at best, and because it's not a certain means for survival. It does not guarantee our security. If it's our lot to carry this burden today, we ought to try to relieve it for future generations. We, all of us here in this room tonight, ought to engage this challenge deeply. In response, and as a political scientist, I find an insight offered by Archbishop Migliore particularly illuminating. Here, the recognition of the values of morality could play an instrumental role in affecting political will. Religious and social institutions can call people to learn and embrace their share of nuclear dangers. My hypothesis is that leaving each of you with a greater sensitivity to your potential control over the bomb, your own imaginary nuclear football just over your shoulder and always present in your conscience, can lead to more and better ideas and that are more carefully and reliably acted upon for living with everybody's bomb and reducing the danger that you will use yours carelessly.